and relax. What a day. Time for a pint. According to the Yorkshire Post, this is one of the city's hidden gems. So Ben, what's your recommendation?
What? No, I've got to say Leeds Pale because I'm
oh really?
With the Leeds Brewery. That was off the record. The Pale.
Right, so what we're going for? Leeds Pale only?
No. That's on offer at the minute for £3 for January. But what kind of things are you after?
I like very creamy bitters.
Oh, okay then. Better off shifting on to the best then, to be honest. We've got a best bitter there. So we'll move away from the pale.
Right, Leeds Best it is.
Gonna go with the Leeds Best, yeah?
Yes, please.
Perfect.
Hello, have you missed me? Time for another pint with JG. In this series, we're going to be talking a lot about different ways you can manage your career and the ways you can manage your job market. Today, I am in the White Swan, which is next to the very famous City Varieties Music Hall. I believe it's Britain's oldest music hall theatre here in Leeds. It was recommended in the Yorkshire Evening Post in 15 great bars to drink in Leeds, and I'm going to basically, I think in this series, pretty much work my way through that article. Ben behind the bar recommended me a pint of Leeds Best. Let's give it a go. Not a bad way to start season 2. You see, January, really interesting time of year for us at IRC, and I would imagine for a lot of recruitment consultants in particular. We, as a business right now, we're really busy. So we tend to get busy in January because there is a seasonal element to the recruitment sector, and particularly I find in sales recruitment throughout my 20 years. What typically happens is people go away over Christmas and they have a little bit of a think. So if I'm in a sales job, I go away over Christmas and I have a look at the kids' presents on Christmas Day, and little Billy's not quite getting what he hoped for on Christmas Day, and little Katie's not quite getting the Barbie castle, little Billy's not got his Xbox One. I'm passing off an empty box as an Action Man deserter for little Billy, and I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? Those presents weren't good enough for my child because I didn't sell enough, and I didn't sell enough because my job's not good enough. And as a result, that inkling, that feeling starts to grow with people that maybe they ought to look around for a new job in the new year. And then what happens is it gets compounded. People tend to go away over that time, and they usually go and see some relative. We've all got one who's painfully successful, painfully wealthy, got loads of cash, and we always have to answer that question over Christmas, which is, how's it going? How's work? How's business? How's your career? What are you doing with yourself nowadays? And the real question is, often I would say it's the people that end up looking down at their shoes when they have to answer the question, whose CVs usually land on our desks in the new year. In exactly the same way, if I'm a sales leader at this time of year around Christmas, I'm sat watching my kids open their presents, the wife's opening her present, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, I didn't make enough money last quarter because actually salesman X and salesman Y, they didn't sell enough because they're useless, and so as a result you tend to find there's a bit of an influx of vacancies at this time of year, and as a result you get new CVs, people register, and people come in after Christmas having really re-evaluated. New Year's Eve is also a time for great personal evaluation. People sometimes, I think, still set what do you call them, New Year's resolutions. So what you tend to find is, in the same way that people join gymnasiums in the new year, we get very, very busy in January. There's a solid reason why people inquire about new jobs in the new year, and that is a basic reality of life, which is 95% of the time it's because something isn't quite right in the job that they're in. They're not making enough money, they're not succeeding, they're not winning, they don't like their boss, but more often than not, it usually comes down to one key thing, and that's a lack of success. The funny thing is, when we meet people and we interview them and they come and register with Inward Revenue Consulting, or I would imagine any other recruiter, it's very, very rare people walk into the interview and start saying, actually, I'm just not achieving the kind of success I was hoping for, I'm not winning. What usually happens is people will find a whole host of other reasons that they want to tell their recruitment consultant as to why they're on the job market, usually compounded with one single key line, which is a killer giveaway, which is, I've built a huge pipeline. And today, what I want to tell you about is why I do not care about your pipeline. You've really got to stop rabbiting on about how you've built an amazing pipeline in the job that you've been in. It's a dead giveaway, and there's 5 key things people don't like about it. Firstly, it doesn't mean anything. It says, actually, you're very bad at forecasting. You're effectively walking into a meeting with a channel partner, a sales recruiter, somebody who you're going to rely upon to put you in front of his most coveted, most valued clients. And you've effectively turned around to that sales recruiter in the meeting and said, do you know what? I forecast badly. Last year, I built a pipeline that doesn't really count for anything and doesn't really mean anything, but hey, it's the opening gambit of what I'm going to tell you I'm great at today. By the way, for God's sake, do not, whatever you do, write it on your CV. It's a terrible giveaway. Secondly, it draws huge amounts of attention to the problem at hand. When people start talking about their pipeline, they do it because they want the recruiter, or they want the person recruiting, the company, whoever it is that's potentially looking at them as a prospective candidate, to look in a different direction. They're trying to create a little bit of an illusion. Look over here, I've got a great pipeline. But actually in doing so, the protest is too great. I think Shakespeare said, I think thou dost protest too much. And as a result, any decent interviewer worth his salt is immediately going to start digging into your achievement against target. Just don't go there. Number 3, it sounds like the dog ate your homework. It sounds like an excuse. It sounds like you haven't taken responsibility for the difficult and, let's just use it, the F word, the failed year that you've just had at work. Okay, so it was a bad year, I get it, everybody gets it, but by trying to cover it up, by talking incessantly about your big pipeline, what you're effectively doing is not taking responsibility for the situation. And nobody wants to hire a salesperson who doesn't take immediate proactive responsibility for whether they do or don't succeed. Finally, and I'm going to get to the point, it just comes across as a bit pathetic. It's a little bit sad, it's a little bit needy, rabbiting on about this pipeline that never closed. No one cares, don't do it. So you know me, I'm a solutions rather than a problem kind of guy. You're probably thinking, okay, well, what's the alternative? What am I going to say? Well, own it. Own the problem. Everybody's had a bad year. It's like I said earlier, I've had bad years. Every person I know, I'm 46 years old. You show me a 46-year-old salesperson, or a 50-odd-year-old salesperson, or a 28-year-old salesperson who hasn't had a period where actually it got difficult. As my nephew would say, shit got real. I'll show you a liar. That's life. Take responsibility for it. Walk into a meeting with a recruiter and say, listen, here's where I'm at. I went to work for company X and it didn't work out, and I'll explain why it didn't work out. That not working out resulted in me not selling anything, and as a result, I feel under terrible pressure, and as a result of that, I think it's probably better I leave than before I get fired. I would say the percentage of candidates that have got the nuts to say that to me is probably 1 in 100. But actually that 1 in 100 is usually a top guy reeling painfully from the fact that he didn't have a good year and is about to go and put it right somewhere else. The next thing to do is to work hard on making sure that when you walk into the meeting with your recruiter or any potential hiring manager that you might meet, that you've worked really hard on demonstrating that irrespective of the bad year that you've just had that's led to you being sat in front of them, that actually by and large you're usually a very successful, high quality sales professional. You know, it's very, very rare I meet people who I believe are talentless. If you're in this game and you've been doing it more than 5 years, it's because you've got the guts and the talent and the ability to hack it and stick it out. It might be that you ended up in a job that wasn't compatible with you, or you weren't compatible with that job. It doesn't mean you're not very good. So the key thing is to be able to demonstrate, actually, yeah, I ended in a job that was not quite compatible with me, or I wasn't quite compatible with it, but by and large, I'm a good guy or a good girl, and I'm successful. I know how to do this, and I've got a proven track record of doing it time and time again. So remember, everyone's in the job market for a reason, and it's okay to admit that it went wrong. All you've got to do is do that because it will benefit you long term. The recruiters will respect you, hiring managers will respect you. You'll get more interviews by actually getting straight to the point than you will trying to obfuscate. So here's me, episode 1 of season 2 of A Pint with JG, in the White Swan, good rock and roll tunes in the background, nice pint of beer. It's been lovely talking to you again, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see you again next week or next month or whenever I next get to shoot this video blog. All the best. If you need me, you know where I am. Bye.